The mansion that breathed. In the fog-covered mountains of Cambodia, a mansion sat forgotten, its windows hollow, its walls devouring sound. Locals called it Bokor Hill's mouth because they believed the house swallowed those who entered and never spat them back out. In early 2004, a Korean film crew arrived to shoot a low-budget horror movie called Echo Point. The director, Kang Hoon, was young and ambitious, known for chasing authenticity, no matter the risk. The script called for soldiers trapped in a cursed outpost during the Vietnam War, and when he saw photos of the abandoned French colonial mansion atop Bokor Mountain, he knew instantly this was the place. But the locals begged them not to go. "The house is a wound," one guide warned, refusing to step off the truck. "It doesn't want to be seen again." The crew laughed it off. After all, fear was good for business. They believed in scripts, not curses. Arrival. The fog thickened as their van climbed the winding road. The forest grew silent. No birds, no wind, only the crunch of gravel beneath tires. When the mansion emerged from the mist, it loomed like a corpse halfway buried. The red stone had turned black, and vines crawled over its cracked facade like veins. Inside, everything smelled of rot and damp earth. On one wall, someone had scrawled words in faded Khmer. "Do not sleep here." The art director chuckled nervously. "Probably some graffiti left by tourists," he said. But the letters had been carved, not written, deeply, like the wall itself had been screaming. The first night, they performed a Korean ritual before filming began, a small offering of rice, incense, and fruit. The director bowed 3 times. "Just to be safe," he said. But even before the first camera rolled, the air inside began to change. The fog outside thickened, pressing against the windows like breath from something enormous. When they turned on the generator, the lights flickered, dimmed, and then went out completely. "It's fine," said the cinematographer. "It's just the wiring." They shot the first scene using battery lamps, the actors whispering through the stale air. When Kang reviewed the footage that night, the monitor showed something strange: static, distortions, and shapes that weren't in the frame before. A human silhouette standing behind one of the actors. But in the moment of filming, no one had been there. The vanishing mansion. On the second day, something stranger happened. From the mountain road below, the building was visible, glowing faintly in the morning sun. But once they reached the gate, the house was gone, completely swallowed by fog. "Are we in the right place?" someone asked. Then, as if hearing them, the fog shifted, and the mansion appeared again, only a few feet away, closer than it should have been. The crew exchanged nervous glances. Kang forced a laugh. "Perfect horror atmosphere, right?" They pressed on. The scratch. During a lighting setup, one of the makeup artists screamed. "Something touched me." She showed her arm. 3 red scratches running from wrist to elbow. Too deep to be accidental. They searched the room, thinking maybe she brushed against rusted metal. But there was nothing sharp nearby. That night, more crew members complained of feeling heavy, unable to sleep. One assistant swore she heard someone pacing outside her door. When she opened it, the hallway was empty, except for a faint trail of muddy footprints leading away from her room. Bare feet, small, like a child's. The disappearing girl. On the 3rd day, chaos struck. One of the production assistants, Mincio, went missing. She had gone outside for a quick smoke and never returned. The search lasted hours. The mansion's hallways twisted unnaturally, identical rooms repeating endlessly, doors that opened to walls, staircases that looped back to the same floor. Finally, she was found sitting on the cold tiles of a storage room, staring blankly ahead. Her voice trembled when she finally spoke. "I heard someone calling my name from under the floor. When I tried to leave, there were 2 doors." When they brought her out, the fog behind her thickened again, curling upward like smoke from a breath she didn't take. Blood on the walls. That evening, dark stains began appearing across the lodging walls, spreading like veins. The locals who helped carry equipment grew pale. "That's not water," one whispered. "That's memory." The stains deepened to red overnight. The next morning, the power failed again, and every piece of footage shot the previous day was corrupted. Nothing but static and silence. The sound engineer swore He heard something under the static, whispers, in a language he didn't know. He turned up the volume, and everyone froze. Between the hiss of white noise, a voice whispered clearly, "You should not have come here." As the sun disappeared behind the mountains, the fog returned, denser than ever. The mansion seemed to pulse, as though the walls were breathing, slowly inhaling the crew into its lungs. Director Kong turned to his team, his voice shaking for the first time. "We'll finish this fast," he said, "before it notices we're here." But it was already too late. The lost reel. Morning came, but no one felt awake. The fog hadn't lifted. It pressed against the windows like wet paper, and the air inside the mansion grew heavier, thick enough to taste. Director Kong sat by the monitor, scrolling through what little footage survived. Everything was distorted, faces blurred, frames skipping, and sounds that weren't supposed to be there. When he paused one clip, his own reflection blinked back at him from the dark screen. But his reflection blinked twice. The recording that shouldn't exist. The team had decided to pack up and leave that afternoon. But while backing up files, the sound engineer noticed something odd. A new folder had appeared on his hard drive. It was named scene_07_reel. The problem? They had only filmed up to scene 05. He played it anyway. Static. Then, faint whispers, dozens of overlapping voices, speaking in different tones. The camera seemed to be moving through the mansion alone, as if someone invisible was holding it. It stopped in front of a door none of them remembered filming. Then, a woman's face appeared for a split second. Not one of the crew. Not an actress. The clip ended with the camera dropping to the floor. "Who filmed that?" Kong demanded. "It wasn't me," said the cinematographer. "It wasn't anyone," whispered Mincio. "That room doesn't exist." Echoes in the hall. They searched every hallway. The door from the video wasn't there. But while walking back, Kong heard a faint cry, a woman's voice, distant, echoing through the walls. "Help me." He froze. The others didn't hear it at first. But as silence fell, the whisper came again, closer, and the air dropped cold. The lights flickered. Then the generator died completely. In the pitch darkness, something brushed against Kang's shoulder. He swung his flashlight and saw a figure at the end of the hallway. A woman in a white dress, her hair soaked, standing perfectly still. "Hello," he called. She tilted her head. The light trembled in his hand. Then, the woman opened her mouth and screamed, but no sound came out. The hallway filled with a blast of wind and a low, hollow moan. When the flashlight flickered again, she was gone. Only a puddle of water remained on the floor, shaped like footprints leading toward them. The final scene. That night, they made the mistake of watching all the remaining footage. Every clip had changed. Actors looked directly at the camera even when they weren't supposed to. In one shot, a shadow moved against the light, and in another, the entire crew was visible, even calm. But none of them remembered being filmed from that angle. "This is impossible," said the assistant director. "It's like someone's finishing the movie for us." Then, the generator came back on by itself. The lights returned, but the mansion's layout had changed. The main entrance was gone. In its place stood a long, narrow corridor that shouldn't exist. The crew argued, panicking. Some ran in different directions. Others stayed frozen in fear. Kong, trembling, held his camera and muttered, "Keep filming. If it's real, the footage will prove it." The descent. They followed the corridor deeper, the air growing damp and heavy. The walls began to drip. The sound of breathing filled the space, slow, rhythmic, and human. When they reached the end of the hall, there was a door carved with strange Khmer symbols. Mincio's voice shook. "That's the door from the lost reel." Before anyone could stop him, Kong turned the handle. Inside was a single, circular room. Dozens of old film reels hung from the ceiling by wires, gently spinning. The projector at the center flickered to life on its own, casting trembling shadows on the walls. It played footage of them, standing right where they were now, watching the screen. And in the video, behind them, something moved. The house awakens. The floor vibrated. The walls began to shift, breathing in and out like lungs. The crew screamed, running for the exit, but the door slammed shut, locking them inside. The projector light grew brighter, then burst, plunging the room into darkness. When the emergency flashlight flickered on, Kong was alone. Everyone else was gone. His camera, still rolling, caught a faint whisper near his ear. "You finished what we started." The walls rippled like water, and a dozen pale faces began to press through the surface. Men, women, children, trapped in the plaster, their mouths silently open in agony. Kong backed away, shouting into the camera, "If anyone finds this, don't come here." The house. The footage cuts there. Aftermath. A year later, local authorities discovered the abandoned equipment near Bokor Hill. The van's doors were open, keys still in the ignition. Inside the mansion, nothing remained. No crew, no bodies, no traces of the production. But when investigators opened one of the old cameras, the SD card contained a single new file dated months after the team vanished. It was labeled Echo Point Final Cut. The video lasted exactly 1 hour and 42 minutes. Every scene matched the original script perfectly, including the final shot, where the director's hand reaches out toward the camera just before the screen goes black. The film was never released, but fragments of the lost footage continue to appear online, grainy, corrupted clips with whispers buried under the static. And some say, if you pause at the right frame, you'll see the faces of the missing crew standing behind the camera, watching you. The end.